It's Hofer broke, baby.
All righty then. Welcome back to Hofer Broke. Thanks for joining us. We are going to have a lot of fun. So, I said in the last episode, I'm not sorry for making you wait a whole week, but I'm glad that you're back though. We talked about a lot of things, but towards the end we talked about Mormons, okay? And I've got experiences with them. And we decided to wait till this episode, so let's talk about it, man. I'm sure everyone has had experiences with Mormons. Whether you have known it or not, you've probably seen the people that have had like those white collar shirts, with the ties, and you'd see a badge on them or like a name tag. It would say Elder so and so of Latter-day Saints, or I think it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those guys are Mormons. And so, not to be confused with morons, but that's what happens when you throw out that middle M. It's just saying. But I've had a few experiences with them. Now, keep in mind, I am a Christian, and if you want to be specific, you could say evangelical Christian. You don't have to worry about me losing, changing religions, blah blah blah. But I was very ambitious, and still kind of am, not as much as I used to be. But I was ambitious on like really wanting to convert the Mormons, just because it's a big old fat lie that they believe in. And if you really dive into like the history of it all, it's like, how on earth has this become a religion, and why is it so big? So I ran into a couple Mormons when I worked at Subway one time. They came into the store, and this is my very first run-in with Mormons. I looked at their name tags and I saw Church of, and I was like, okay, cool. What church are you guys with? They're like, oh, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I was like, okay, Mormons. I know this. These are Mormons. I didn't know anything about them at the time. And so I was like, cool, well, can we talk later or whatever? And they said, yeah. So I decided to meet them at their church. And I was ready to throw down with them. I was ready to just say everything that I could to like make them lose their freaking faith and make them become a Christian. Now, if you are someone who wants to do this right now, just like that, don't do it like that, man. There's different ways, But anyway, me going guns a-blazing, I went in and there's 3 Mormons, so that's not normal anyway, like 3 elders. And you probably read elder and you're like, why are they so young? That's just the title that they're given. And these elders, when they're in wherever you are, they're on their mission. Like whatever town you're in and you see an elder, they are not from the town that you're in. They're all over the place. They're just coming to serve their mission. And so anyway, the 3 of them wanted me. We head to the room that we were supposed to go in, and there's like some guy just sitting outside, and they're like, oh yeah, well he's gonna join us. And I'm like, why? Why is he gonna join us? Now, I don't remember this dude's name, but he was so kind to me after the fact. Like after, he was so kind. I really wish I remembered his name, because that's what I remember the most, that he was just a super kind guy. Well, anyway, he was more so there just for them. And we got in there, and one of the Mormons said, okay, Isaac, we need you to close your eyes. Or, no, they said, we normally ask people to close their eyes so they can have the first vision that Joseph Smith, their founder, had. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was just sitting like this, all freaking retarded, like this. And they said, okay, close your eyes. So I was very, didn't want to do it, because it seems sketchy. And it still does. Even after the fact, it seems super sketchy. Because I closed my eyes, and no one spoke for like 20 seconds. And I thought I heard some shuffling behind me. I was like, these guys are going to beat me up. These guys are going to be swinging at me. I will take on 4 people at the same time. I'll freaking do it. I will swing at every single person in here. I've heard how they pray. I'm not afraid of them. Anyway, then dude starts talking, and he's reading whatever the vision was, like something about seeing heaven open up, seeing God and Jesus standing side by side. That's a problem in itself, and just kept going. And then I was able to open my eyes, and I was like, yeah, but I just kept going. And if you say certain things that like are confrontational, they'll they'll be like, oh, sorry, well, we gotta go, blah blah blah. They don't have to go. They just don't want to do it anymore. That's how they're trained. And so, I mean, that was with a set of Mormons, and then I've talked to a different set of Mormons before, or after that anyway, and it's goofy, like it's crazy because they believe in Jesus, but it's not the same Jesus. And it's crazy. I wish, I really want to have Mormons change their mind and actually become Christian because they think they're Christian, but they're not. And it's the same thing with Jehovah's Witnesses, too. You've heard me talk about this one before, and this one happened like a month ago, something like that. And I wish I would have done things differently, but I was mad, man. I was so mad. This old lady, like two old ladies came up to the door. There's one that was really doing the talking, and she was getting argumentative and all this stuff, and she's like, well, we're going to keep the earth, and God said that we're going to keep the earth. And I was like, why? Why do you want to keep it? Why do you want to stay here? People are blowing up trucks. People are just doing all these things with trucks. We've talked about this before. It's like, why? There's so much evil in this world and all this stuff. It's like, why? And plus, Taylor Swift is still making music. Like, why do you want to stay here? And anyway, we just kept talking, and neither of us changed each other's minds. And I thought that was that. Then, like a day or two later, she decides to come back with her husband, and just being extra argumentative. And it got to the point where I was like, why are you back? Why did you come back to my house? And she's like, well. And I think her husband like started like kind of like putting his hand around her, starting to make her like kind of pushing her back. And I was like, okay, cool. Man, freaking Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm so glad that I have not seen them again, man. That's like, when the world ends, I mean, we all have to stand before God and get judged. I'm just saying, like, who wants to keep this place? And they said things would change and stuff. And I was asking them questions like, well, what about the new heaven and the new earth? They didn't understand. They don't understand a whole lot, when it comes to stuff like that. I've divin. What is the past tense of that word? Dove? I've doven? Dover? Hofer? Hofer broke? I don't remember. But I've dove into like all the other religious stuff before just to read about them and just see. And it's crazy when you're like actually talking to these people and realizing like, because you hear about their beliefs and stuff like this, but then it's crazy to hear it coming out of their mouths. It's crazy stuff. Oh, whoops. Did you see I trimmed my mustache, by the way? Like, on topic, I've trimmed my mustache. It's my first time doing it, actually. It's weird when you're, like, watching tutorials on how to do it, and you got, like, dude, like, so close up to the camera doing all this. Anyway, hope you like it. Hope it's good. Did this a little bit. Just trying to figure out, the look. Anyway. Man, yeah, it's interesting doing, like, that, talking with those people like that. So, if you've had experiences with Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses before, I suggest that you look into it, dude. It's nuts. It's crazy. And you'll actually see. Now, I don't necessarily suggest engaging with them on this stuff, but like, man, once you hear it, it's like, what the heck, dude? A bunch of crazy stuff, man. And I know I keep talking like this, but I'm super excited for 2025. I don't have you guys like been keeping up with your goals? This video will be coming out like later, I hope I've been keeping up with my goals. I still got things to do today. I still got to go to Walmart, man. I don't want to go to Walmart. That's where all the creatures are, dude. There's one time at Walmart, me and my brother and my dad, we were walking, and we saw this lady with like samples of like cookies or whatever. And this dude comes up, and apparently he knew the woman, and he goes, "Oh, hey." They hug, and he goes, "Well, what do you got there?" And she goes, "Cookies." And we we had to get out of that aisle. We had to get out of there because we kept saying it too. We're like, "Cookies, cookie." We just kept saying it, dude. The creatures they come out at Walmart. There was one time I saw two tall dudes. They were very tall, and they looked like zombies or whatever. They looked all tore up and had like makeup on, looking super goth. They look, and I was like genuinely scared. I was like, "Are these guys like, what's happening here? What's going on here? What's up with these monsters?" Oh man, that actually reminds me of there was one time. I think this was actually my first job. Like I got paid, but it wasn't like a week by week type of job. So I can say this: there is a castle, which is just an attraction. It's not a real castle where I live, and they're always doing Halloween. They do Halloween every year, and they do Christmas, and they do like medieval stuff throughout the summer. My first job was the Halloween thing. One of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. My particular haunt, the haunts are just the things you go to, like you spend money to get tickets and you go have that experience. Those are haunts. Mine was the Trail of Blood. Really cool. You basically have your own tribes. Because you have the Trail of Blood guys, you have the Casamorde guys, you have the other guys. So they all do their haunts together. Anyway, the training for this stuff was the weirdest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Day one, I didn't even know what I was supposed to be, but everyone else knew what kind of creature or monster they were. And these were everyone from all the haunts, every single person that's working at the castle. So it was crazy. They said, "Get in this big circle." And we said, "Okay." Then they said, "Okay, start walking in the circle." We said, "Okay." We all start walking normally. Then they said, "Okay, start walking like your character." Immediately got weird. People are limping. Some people were crawling. Some people were floating, and I don't even know how they managed to do that. And oh my gosh, it got so weird. So I think my character was supposed to be like a shadow person. So I just kept walking like normally because I thought this was weird anyway, but I was a shadow. You just walk like a person. Then they said, "Okay, now start talking or making sounds like your creature or character does." I wish I wasn't around a group of people that were so committed to what they were doing. It was so bizarre, dude. People growling, making all these noises as they're limping and crawling and doing all these things. And then like you had characters that, or people that weren't a part of a haunt, but they were a part of like just being around and talking to people in the main part of the castle. So they just started talking and stuff. And they were just being weird, dude. Like all these elves and stuff like that, just talking. It is weird. Like I was so weirded out. And since I was a shadow, I didn't say nothing. I was just taking all this in. Oh gosh, and that was so weird. And they had a makeup parlor that you would go to. And since I was a shadow, I needed to get. I needed to black it up. I was so I would have to before it's time to. We had to be at the castle at a certain time, and if you needed makeup, you had to be there at a specific time to get your makeup on. And there was a lady that would just. It was me and a few other guys that had to be spray painted black. Yeah, spray painted for real, like this spray or whatever. And she did our makeup. It'd be funny because every time she would ask for us, she'd be like, "Okay, where are my black people at?" We're like, "Here," and we're all white. Where my black people at? Here we are. Sup, son? West Side, you know. And it was funny because I think one of the practice runs that we did, it wasn't quite the run, but we had like our makeup on and talking to people from other haunts. And one dude was a tall black guy, and I went to high school with him, I'm pretty sure. And he said, man, I'd be really mad at you if we weren't here. And so I was like, yeah, well, you just mad because now I can dribble a basketball better. You best believe, cuz. Like, I can do all that. Oh, gosh. And during the haunt, like, it's go time. And basically, people would start at the beginning of the haunt, and they would go through, and there was 2 trails within the Trail of Blood. Like, it's surrounded by fencing, and in the middle, there's fencing. And then you had 2 trails people could be walking on either side of, but they see what's going on in the middle. And this was around the time, it was like 2017, back when that movie Lights Out came out. That's what I was supposed to be. So people would come through from seeing the evil scientist, whatever. And as they would come outside from the evil scientist, they would come to me, and I had this bright white light shining at them. So when they came in, or came out rather, that's the first thing that they saw. And then I was in the fence, dude. Like, I had like this tiny little box where I was controlling these lights. So one switch had the bright white light that would blind them. Then I had this red LED light behind me that they could see me as the shadow. And then I would start like fake running at them or throw a rock at them or something. And I would turn the bright light on. They'd be blinded. I'd turn the red light back on, and I'm gone. I'm out of there, dude. There was one time as I was doing that. There's one time. There's these drunk people coming through, and no one knew where my door was. Somehow these drunk ladies had the superpower to find it, and they opened the door. They're like, oh, look at you. Shut the door. Oh, man. I should have just RKO'd them right then and there. I should have. They wouldn't have remembered what they did. And then I had people like when we had breaks in between, at least between people, like if people weren't coming, we would talk to one another, and a couple of my other black guys, they'd be like, dude, you good? I'm like, yeah, they were just drunk, dude. Crazy stuff. Man, it was fun. Like, doing that stuff was fun. It was weird. Really, really weird, but all of my guys were like down to earth type stuff. Man, Halloween stuff is fun. It's really fun. And we weren't allowed to touch people at this one, but I have gone to one after that where they were allowed to touch you. And the biggest freaking drag queen came out and like did my chest like that. And I was like, did I just get molested? Are they loud? What is this? And we would go through, and there was like a table you would be walking past, and I guess someone was underneath it, and they would try to like grab your foot and stuff. Have you ever like wanted to stomp out a ghost? Because I think that's what I try to do. Like, get off me! And so they're just trying to stomp them out. What happened, man? All that stuff was just so fun. I want to hear about your experiences, stuff like that. Like I think that particular one was fun. I did that with my cousins and stuff. It was a good time. If you hear like the sounds in the background, which I doubt you can, Dylan is making t-shirts right now. He's doing this athletic thing going on, and he's making his own t-shirts. Eventually, he's not in here while we're recording this, so he doesn't know I'm saying this. So he's going to see this in post. When we want to start selling those shirts, not for me, but for Dylan, because this is his project that he's got going on. Faith Endurance. So cool. So cool. We definitely want to do that. And we want to start getting shirts for Hofer Broke, too. What? That sounded like my car outside. Have you heard a wimpy honk? That was my car, dude. Man, we are just happy to be doing Hofer Broke. All of the people just... One thing that I didn't think was going to follow me was people coming up to me like, it's Hofer Broke, baby! I didn't think people were going to do that crap, dude. So funny. People just coming up, doing all that, just being goofy, just having fun. I appreciate that. I love it so much. What other podcast do you guys listen to? I want to know. Like, if you just put it down in the comments. I've been listening to a lot of Theo Vaughn. He's definitely inspired me a lot to do stuff like this. Dude's a freaking talent. Joe Rogan, even. been a freaking talent. Like he can talk about anything, and do however long he wants to, like 5 freaking hours, something like that. And Bad Friends, freaking love Bad Friends. I don't watch them all the time, but I watch at least a good chunk of it. That comedy scene that they come from too. Have you seen the comedy scene up in Austin, Texas? That is a place where you want to be if you're doing comedy. I call this a comedy podcast. I try to make jokes, but I also like to talk about what's going on around us and everything that's going on in the news and just stuff like that, and just making jokes about it. But the scene in Texas, dude, there's there's one guy I like to watch. I kind of have to take him in doses just because he's like super vulgar, super raunchy. But there's a guy by the name of Adam Ray, and he does a character called Dr. Phil. So funny, and I think recently he did a Dr. Phil live, and he always has guests with him. He did Dr. Phil live with Dr. Phil. Hey, thanks. Dylan came back to save my life. The camera died, but we're back. I think I was talking about Dr. Phil. I think I was anyway. Let's go back to Dr. Phil. Um, I like to watch him. He did Dr. Phil live with Dr. Phil, and dude, honestly, he's one of the funniest guys, like one of the funniest comedians out there. What are your favorite comedians? Like, I used to watch stand up comedy almost religiously, and I watched all the old school guys. But watching all the new guys now, or people who are doing it now, it's so different, but it's so good, man. Like, there is one comedian that inspired me so much. Well, there's two actually, but there's one I would say is like top up there that super inspired me. There's a guy by the name of Sam Kinison. Now, I am from Oklahoma. I'm currently in Oklahoma. And I think Sam Kinison, I want to say he came from Tulsa, I think. And he's buried in Tulsa too, I'm pretty sure. But his name is Sam Kinison, dude. And he was so funny, man. Really, really vulgar, but super funny. And one thing that I appreciate about Dr. Phil and one thing that I miss from comedy nowadays is character comics. People who would just put on this character in front of people. Like, there's a guy by the name of Bob Nelson, and that was pretty much his whole thing was just putting on characters. And yeah, like Sam Kinison, dude. He was a big inspiration for me. And he did something that I think only he could do. He was a super popular comedian, uh, and he loved rock and roll too. Now he's got a song out called "Wild Thing," and I'm pretty sure it's a cover of. Did the Trogs do it first? I can't remember. There was some old school group that did the song "Wild Thing," and he did it. And he got freaking Bon Jovi, Billy Idol, was Slash there? I can't remember. But just take a look at that music video for Wild Thing. And he's got Rodney Dangerfield in the beginning of it too, who's also a super huge comedian. So, like, you probably heard of Kill Tony. I love that show, dude. Again, I have to take it in doses because, just how it is. But I love it, though. And I love all the comedians on there, like Cam Patterson. Casey Rocket, I will say, is probably my favorite comedian to come out of Kill Tony, or that I've seen from Kill Tony. And then you got William Montgomery as well. William Montgomery, I want to meet that dude someday, man. Such a cool guy. I want to meet all of them. And they have guests like Tony Hinchcliffe. I want to learn a lot from him, dude. Just the art itself and just comedy. And he's what Tony Hinchcliffe is doing now is kind of like what Rodney Dangerfield used to do back in the day. And this is how I knew of a lot of the guys is because of Rodney Dangerfield. He would host, I think, a night at Rodney's or whatever it was. I can't remember. It might have been like a one-time event or it might have been something he's done before. But basically, Rodney Dangerfield would get up there. He would tell a couple jokes and he'd be like, okay, this next comedian is blah, 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 blah. And have him come out. He would have guys like Sam Kinison, Andrew Dice Clay. Oh my gosh, Andrew Dice Clay. I don't necessarily suggest you guys go and watch them, but their names are Sam Kinison, Rodney Dangerfield, Andrew Dice Clay. You know their names, so if you search them up, you do what you do. I would probably recommend it at least once. Just watch and see how these guys were. And another big influence for me, his name is Bobcat Goldthwait. Love Bobcat Goldthwait because he would put on a character. Like his whole performance was him being, this guy. It's just go watch his early stuff, like on Letterman, probably. I think that was some of his first appearance on Letterman. He's so funny, dude, and so bizarre, and and he's got so many good jokes too. And I want to say Bobcat Goldthwait's still going. Pretty sure, like not in the same way that it used to be, for sure. But he at least put something out not too long. Well, I say not too long ago, at least a few years ago, 2016 maybe, 9 years ago at this point. Man, I love comedy so much. I love comedy so much. And I'm glad to see all these guys going, and they're going hard, dude. Hard in the paint, hard in the comedy paint. And these guys are just transforming Austin, Texas. Not some dude named Austin. They're going hard, and Kill Tony's so good. One thing I wonder, I'm not the only person who's thought this. What do you guys think of Drew Nickens? Okay, he was. He made Kill Tony history by making like 8 or 9 appearances in the same night, coming back and doing a whole minute every single time. And he was fun during that night, and then he was made a regular, like a rotating regular. Now keep in mind, I think it would have been better if he wasn't after Casey Rocket having that spot. But a lot of people, like, since it was a rotating regular ship, and whoever Tony wanted as, to open, they could open. And Drew Nickens, I don't think I've seen Drew Nickens much since. I wasn't the only person, though. There's lots of potential there. A lot of potential. But stand-up comedy is not easy. When you think you've got a joke and you think it's going to kill, then you get in front of a crowd and you say that joke and no one laughs. And you're like, wow, that was a lot funnier in my head. Or you might say something that you didn't think was really funny and it would freaking kill. Then, like, your engage on it is like, whoa, what? And I never went out to clubs and did stand-up comedy, but I do have a few jokes from the times that I did stand-up comedy back in the day. Oh, speaking, as we're talking, I'm seeing something from Ari Matty on Kill Tony. But one of my favorite jokes that I ever came up with when I was doing stand-up comedy, because I would do it for church. Like, I would do a little bit. Like, I didn't do a whole lot. But they let me test out some jokes. Now, keep in mind, this was in the youth area, so not in the main church area. So there was one night where I was able to do stand up, and our friend Kane ended up preaching afterwards. So I was able to test out some jokes because we were going to go to something called Fine Arts, and I was a senior in high school, I think, when this happened. Anyway, I wrote a bunch of jokes, and I was trying to see which ones landed, which ones hit. I think my best joke there. Now, keep in mind, this was like 2017, 2018. And the joke kind of goes like this. So, keep in mind, there was a very popular show on Netflix at this time of people in prison, particularly women in prison. But also at the same time, we had, it was a couple years after, but President Trump took office after President Barack Obama. And this is what I thought everyone meant when they were saying orange is the new black. Come on now. At the time was a really funny joke. I don't know about now. I don't know if that's necessarily a funny joke now. Oh gosh, but that joke freaking killed then. And then I was doing that just to see what jokes were going to come with me to Fine Arts. But as soon as I got off, our youth pastor said, yeah, you can't take that one. I was like, that one was so good, though. But I get it. I get it. But I think we made it. I think we did. I think we made it there. Man, just being stupid for a long time, it takes it out of you. It really does. Some people know what I'm talking about. But thanks for joining us again on Hofer Broke. Oh, my phone. I hope you can't hear that. But thanks for joining us again for another episode. Please subscribe, like, do all the cool stuff. And I want to hear your stories in the comments. Eventually, I want to do a whole episode where we're just getting people's comments on here. So fun, dude. We went to hear the comedy from you guys as well. Well, thanks for hanging out, and I hope that you join us one more time for Hofer Broke. This Hofer Broke, baby!